Okay, so we are going to start. I'm glad we made it to the last day, so thank you very much, the ones that are here for the closing ceremony today. It has been a really good week. I think everyone has learned a lot, and so I think we have accomplished our aim. We have a really simple and brief closing ceremony. We will have a panel with some invites. Then we will have like an interactive activity with you to take some home messages for the Secretariat and for all the GEO BON community, and then the awards of that we wanted to give, and some final announcements and thanks. So that is the day. We also have CBD delegate to tell us, to give us some closing remarks today. So let's begin with the panel. So we have made a panel that is composed of people that have been working with GEO BON for many years now. We have also people that have started this year to have an important leadership in GEO BON, and we also have people that this was their first conference on GEO BON. And in that way, we can have like a representation of the different participants that we have in this conference. So I will welcome to the stage to the Belma Kalamujić. Thank you, Belma. Also, Alice Hughes. Thank you. Damaris Zurell. Eren Turak. Gary Geller. And Mailyn Gonzalez. Thank you very much for accepting the invitation. So as we go through the questions, we will also like you to think in the answers of those questions, because they might come afterwards in this activity that we have with you. So our first question is, well, what did you learn or appreciate the most this week?
I'll start because I have to make a more rapid exit. For me, the joy of this community is the diversity and the fact that everyone is driven by passion. This is not a normal conference. This is not a normal group of individuals. This is a group of individuals who are motivated to use their expertise to affect genuine change, to bridge the gaps we have between what we need in terms of data and models and generate real solutions. And to me, that's an energizing experience. It's refreshing to be surrounded by a group of individuals who are all impassioned to make a change, to make a difference with what they are doing, and are driven to develop the very best of standards to take us to where we need to go. We're all aware that we're facing a global biodiversity crisis, and it will take the very best science and communicators to fix that. And so it's fantastic to be in a community where everyone is aware of the need for that data and those advances, because together we can try and push the world into a much better place.
Thank you, Alice. Great words.
Okay, thank you, Alice. She put me on a spot. Actually, I'm the one who is for the first time on a GEO BON conference. I've heard of GEO BON. I knew about it because I knew some people, but this is my first experience at the conference and in direct collaboration with the network. Of course, as a scientist, what excited me the most this week is hearing and learning about wonderful science that is being doing all over the world. It was a great experience, of course, being a scientist that is coming from my part of the planet, like from the Balkans, so that's a Southeast Europe. Though it is a Europe, it is a challenging part of the planet, so we do share challenges that some other parts of the planet are sharing. So having me here, it's also a sign that a collaboration is really at the heart of the scientific community, because I really liked the message that was given yesterday during the Half Earth Day. It's reciprocity with no exclusion. So I think only the really dedication, collaboration, and goodwill will propel us up forward.
Yeah, for me it's also actually the first GEO BON conference. I only joined GEO BON just before COVID, and then of course we didn't have anything for all those years. And I must say I found this week absolutely inspiring. So I can totally feel what Alice said, that you really feel the passion, and that's very special, that it's not only that we have a common interest in ecology, but that you actually feel the passion. Every single person here in the room wants to make a change and wants to use the methods, the tools we have, the knowledge we have to halt the biodiversity loss, to make a positive change in the future. And above that, of course, I also learned a lot. I find it super interesting to hear about the new tools, but also to get the different ideas of the people. I think it's a great mix of creativity, but also pragmatism. Like we have to get things done, while we can still think about a lot of creative ways of what we can affect scientifically in the future, but while still being pragmatic and get things done now. I find it great.
Hello. I've been around for a very long time. Not as long as Gary, but so I joined soon after GEO BON was formed. And what struck me, the first day of this conference, is that we are in a new era of GEO BON. We're in a new stage. When I first joined, for the first 3 years or so, 2008 to 11, it was about the big vision, and the big vision fueled by technology, satellite, remote sensing, digitization of databases, museum records, online databases, all the possibilities. Then we moved quickly into working towards the AITA targets. 2013 came EBVs, a conceptual model. Everyone started working towards that. And then the nitty-gritty, a lot of good science. We had to get scientists, researchers on board. That succeeded. You can see the fruits at this conference. But I think what happened now, and the other thing about that period is that there was also a lot of policy work, targeting users, but at a very high level, CBD, IPBES, global scale. I think now what is happening is we are in a phase of looking at users at a much finer scale. We're talking about indigenous communities, community-based monitoring. So I think what that requires is diversity and inclusion in a way that is not beyond would be nice. It's absolutely critical. And this can't be just about not discriminating, not excluding. It has to be about removing impediments. In this conference, we've seen a few examples. I just want to give one. In the sessions I was organizing, we had presenters from Cameroon, Pakistan, Indonesia, and India. All of them women, all of them in their early career stages. None of them are here. Yet, they were able to present through pre-recorded presentations. And their voice was heard, their work was seen, and they made network connections. This is thanks to the flexibility of the organizers of the conference and a bit of work on our part, the organizers. Small work, but most importantly, these were brilliant presentations. These were presentations, there was nothing like them in the whole conference. They were different. So that diversity is what we probably need to embrace and work towards.
Oh, thanks, Eren. Yeah, I guess I won't repeat everything that these people have said because I feel exactly the same. But I will say I have three favorite meetings, and GEO BON has always been one of them, but it's just come up a few notches. The other two, by the way, are the World Biodiversity Forum and the ESA Living Planet Symposium, if you're interested. The reason I think this came up a few notches is because of the energy that I would see and still see, even on a Friday afternoon. And I think that energy came from probably at least two areas. One of them is because of COP15, which that energy sort of fed into GEO BON's mission, which is manifested in this meeting. And the other one is that, like Eren said, we're kind of in a new phase and have been for a little bit in GEO BON, and I think all those pieces fit together. The other thing, which I know people say this at every meeting, but it's the hallway and impromptu conversations, which meeting new colleagues and meeting people you know and don't see very often, but also meeting new people. And I'm an introvert, so for me to say that is actually a pretty big statement, but I found this to be a very inviting meeting, and someone else I spoke with also found it inviting. And I think that's a huge plus for the meeting.
Thank you. Well, for me, it's the first GEO BON conference too, and I will have three things. Maybe one of them, like being able to talk about the challenges, is something that we don't used to do like in academic conferences. So I really appreciate that. I also appreciate the fact of understanding like the extent of this community, like being part of this transition between research and management. And sometimes back at home, you feel a little bit alone because you're not part of the researchers anymore, but you're not a stakeholder either. And like seeing that here, this is a big group, like in the same transition with the same aim, is important. And finally, like being able to be together, to exchange in person is something that I don't take for granted anymore after the pandemic. So I think that is a wonderful experience to be back here in person again.
Thank you. Thank you for all your answers. So this is really nice for us as organizers to hear these words, joy, passion, good science, collaboration, no exclusion, diversity, positive change, inviting, monitoring to action. I guess that with these testimonies, we have been really achieving what we were aiming for. So, well, thank you very much for these nice and positive feedbacks and words. Now, the second question. So, because you have liked it so much, I guess you will maintain yourself as members of GEO BON. So how do you see yourself as member of GEO BON community, and what perspectives do you bring to the GEO BON community?
Okay, well, in my case, I identify several groups working on DNA and eDNA, and well, I guess that I will try to see how I can manage to join some of them. And the perspective is that, for instance, this morning we have a session about unlocking eDNA studies in the tropics and how challenging it is to do eDNA studies still in the tropics. But just the session before that was a session about the standards to implementing eDNA already in a lot of other places in the world. So you have the feeling that this is a conversation like at two different speeds. So a part of the globe is already ready to implement and working on standards, and the other part of the world is still trying to unlock these mechanisms to be able to arrive to a standard one day. So I think that it's really important that this other part of the world are part of these working groups take part in these discussions, and that we can, between all of us, really have a dialogue on how to unlock these challenges.
Oh, that's really neat. I think maybe everyone here has a different role here. But in my case, I really like the big picture of things. I like systems. Partly that's because I come from NASA, and I swear I think some of it is genetic, but that's a different question. I don't really like chaos. I don't like scattered things, and so GBiOS is sort of at that very early stage, so I'm hoping I'll be able to, along with everyone here, to paint that GBiOS canvas and help with some of the facilitation. The other piece is, being from NASA, really work towards integrating remote sensing data with in situ data so that we can extract the full value from both of those. And I think they're very complementary, and bringing them together has a lot of value.
I work as a research scientist at a subnational government conservation agency. Our agency looks after about 900 national parks, about 1,000 threatened species. We have about 500 threatened species programs. We also look after biodiversity, offsetting, environmental accounts, and many other things. So my work day to day feeds into all this coalface of decision making. That's one hat that I wear. Usually I used to have to take it off when I come to GEO BON. My other hat is Freshwater BON co-chair, and we formed Freshwater BON 2017. Our vision was to have 100 countries and lots of members working as one team. Well, we're at about 92 countries, 400 members, 150 of them active, and directly engaging everyone to work as another team has been a challenge. But now I can see I don't have to change hats. I can use one hat because we can combine them. And if we are really in this new phase, and we're really focused on reaching out to the whole world and reaching out to communities and really dealing with people, then I think these perspectives that I bring from Freshwater BON and from my government decision-making support role will work quite well, and I'd hope that everyone can embrace that kind of combination.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'm here to bring the modeling perspective. The GEO BON co-chairs asked us to build a new GEO BON modeling working group to support also prediction. And that is like we are 4 co-chairs. We just initiated that group at the end of last year. We call it EcoCode. That's Mark Urban, Greta Buccedi, and Santiago Velasco, and me. And yeah, we're still working on exactly what we want to achieve within the working group, but we already feel there's a lot of passion in the community. We have made a poll. We received more than 300 answers of people who are really passionate about moving this field forward. We still have to define exactly what will be the first working groups, the first projects we will work on, but the main idea is like moving biodiversity towards a predictive science to really fill this monitoring to mitigation pathway, that we can use models to inform decision making, that we are moving away from just a reactive mode of decision making towards a proactive mode of decision making, where you can prior to decisions assess what effect they will have. And yeah, I'm happy to bring this perspective and develop that further with all of you.
So I'm part of one of the regional bonds, AP BON, the Asia Pacific Biodiversity Observation Network. And of course, the regional bonds are a huge component of what GEO BON does to ensure it does have that global impact. Within AP BON at the moment, we are doing a strategic initiative where we are trying to assess data that exists, whether it's in private, non-accessible hands, whether it's public, and what the gaps are, so that we can help countries generate the data that they need to fulfill things like the monitoring framework and build up their NBSAPs. Within AP BON, we have regional delegates from most countries in the region so that we can talk direct with the party representatives and the CBD focal points and help them move forward and build a stronger foundation of data. And we also have regular webinars within the group to ensure that everyone is on the same page, everyone understands the processes within GEO BON as well as the CBD, and that we can all move forward more strongly together and build a stronger foundation of data for the region.
Personally, I see maybe 3 points where I could make a contribution. One would be, of course, to maybe become, not personally, but by institution that I'm coming from, a new small dot on GEO BON map. Because, of course, when we think about the global south, and I put my country, I'm coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina, I'm putting my country there, absolutely, it's not true that there is nothing out there outside of the current borders of the GEO BON network. There are definitely countries and institutions already established there which already have the infrastructure. What there are need of is the guidance, because we definitely need to fast forward now our actions. So I'm coming from the institution who is completely equipped to undertake any procedures, any methods, any actions, taking from the regular PCR to digital PCR, from Sanger sequencing to NGS, macroarray, which you might not expect like from one country. So other aspect might be to start a conversation with the local and a regional community, scientific community in a local language, because sometimes scientists from such countries kind of fear to start an interaction with larger networks because we do sometimes feel that we are not good enough. It takes sometimes a couple of people just like, holding their teeth and just jumping into deep and proving themselves, but also our fellow scientists back home that yes, we do have something to bring to the table. And the third thing maybe on my side in countries that are similar to mine, might be to take advantage of having a small countries, therefore having a small community and maybe closer connection to policymakers. So I think GEO BON might also leverage on that, that scientists that are involved in some of the networks or will be part of such networks are already in good relations to local policymakers, and I think activities of such networks can be actually brought to the table, especially in terms of the GBF now.
Thank you. Thank you for those answers. And this exercise is going very well because the panel is a small sample of all the people that were in this conference, and we find such a diverse roles in them that imagine all the roles that we can have in all the community, a lot of complementarity, great diversity. Thank you very much. So I will give now the microphone to Andrew so he can continue with the next questions.
Thank you, Maria. Tag teaming with Maria, as I've been doing for 3 years now, and what a pleasure it is. So I have this amazing panel in front of me. We're going to put them to work. My next question has been, we spent a couple of years when we started as co-chairs working through a SWOT analysis of the entire network and trying to distill what we think might be a clear mission and vision for the network. Obviously, the mission is people and everything that our colleagues here have said about the communities of practice and how we support that effort. But we came up with a single big idea, which you heard me present on day one, which is this global biodiversity observing system, something that you can explain relatively quickly as to what our grand vision might be. But I know in my head what it is, but I'm not sure what it is and what it means for everybody here. So what I would like to ask each of you is to share what you think GBiOS might become, what it could be and what it might mean for you, and what it could mean for this community.
I'll start because I need to dash in a minute. At the moment, we are at a state where much of the world has no data. We have a set of indicators for the global biodiversity framework that do not allow us to take the pulse of the planet. They do not detect declines in biodiversity, spatially, temporally, or taxonomically. We need to do better. A system like GBiOS can allow us to bridge that gap by providing almost real-time, temporally accurate, high-resolution data that allows us to monitor what those global trends of biodiversity are and therefore have the means of actually working to counteract biodiversity losses. The reality is that unless we do better to understand global trends in biodiversity and address them, we will continue to lose global biodiversity. With a system like GBiOS, we can start to bridge that gap and develop the critical data infrastructure we need to start changing the world. And so I hope that we can realize that vision because it is so sorely needed. And with the capacity of people in this room and the network of GEO BON, we can start to build the foundation that we need to build a better planet and a better monitoring system for global biodiversity. So.
Well, for me, it's easy because I don't really understand what GBiOS is about. And I mean, I have heard for the first time the first day of the conference, and still in my head is not clear. But I understand like the importance of having a global effort to report on biodiversity changes. And I think that for such a system to be successful, what we need to guarantee is really like all the regions with their particularities in biology and their particularity in logistics feel represented in that effort, you know, because otherwise it won't success. So I think it's a big challenge to guarantee that dialogue that is global, but at the same time, I think that this community is like the best group to approach that challenge because it is a group of experts from all the regions working in that transition between science and management.
Thanks. Well, I think some of the key things have already been said from me, who I already mentioned I don't like chaos. So from one perspective, GBiOS will remove the chaos. It'll coordinate the activities. And by doing that, it enables these other things that people have talked about. And I think that's really important. And it will hopefully spread the decision-making capabilities more globally to the global south where so much biodiversity exists anyway. So that's kind of how I see it. And I do think that modeling really needs to be an important component of that because we can't understand what we should do unless we know what the consequences of the alternatives are.
Just thinking about what GBiOS would do that GEO BON doesn't do and can't do. First, you know, thinking about GEO BON, what has been achieved is a network of knowledge providers, essentially knowledge providers in all fields of biodiversity monitoring, from modelling to all kinds of in situ monitoring, eDNA, etc. And I think in GEO BON we've really organised that well, you know, in working groups and thematic bonds and national bonds, and we've got a people network which feeds this knowledge in. What we don't have is implementation mechanisms and the real, as systematic as the knowledge network is, we need a data collection network and system, which is actually quite a different kettle of fish, but it will need the knowledge network. So I see GBiOS as being organically connected to GEO BON, but separate in that very clear implementation mission.
Yeah, to me, GBiOS looks like it really provides the critical logistic and coordination we need for becoming more efficient, that we are not reinventing the wheel every time we want to do something, so that we are integrating the data, we are harmonizing data, we are filling critical data gaps, we add the modeling component to then really drive decision-making policy support. Just to give you a picture, if we want to model different species in the world, then what we need are the data, of course. Where are those species? Then we're building the models. That sounds simple, but often we're spending so much time on actually cleaning the data first, then harmonizing the taxonomy between different countries, different species lists, etc. So if that could actually be provided by GBiOS, that will make our life so much easier and much more efficient, because we don't have to go through this whole cleaning process every time again. And I think it's also a really nice example of coordinating between different knowledges, as you said, that we use, for example, also the modeling not just as an end after we have the data, but that we also use the modeling to then inform where we need more data to inform monitoring again, that we like really have very nice feedbacks between monitoring and modeling and not just a one-way route.
as they would say, like, I have a dream and it's called GBiOS. But as dreamy as might sound, we should actually remind ourselves that many things that we are using nowadays completely normally were not that far away part of a science fiction. So it's not unfeasible. What I really hope that GBiOS might bring with it, being, as it was said, implementation network, is that it would bring definitely a capacity building in forms of education. Like, I'm a firm believer of education, that the knowledge brings power. And what I was kind of afraid I have to share with you, listening to different wonderful talks here at the conference, is that with continuously growing, more complicated methods that we are using, I'm afraid that we are at the same time maybe widening conservation gap between global north and global south. So what I really hope that GBiOS might bring is actually education. If there will be no country left behind, if no men left behind, there will be no species left behind. So this is what I really hope to see from GBiOS.
Incredible answers. One of the things I think is really important that came through every keynote was that we have a global challenge. We need global solutions, but built on the richness of local science, local action, and local communities, right? It's not about leaving people behind. And we're not in the 1960s anymore. We're in the 21st century with a whole suite of tools and connectivity and cloud-native data and a bunch of approaches that are out there, and we know how to do this. So I think it's as much about, as Eren said, the network, the knowledge network that we have in GeoBon, but actually just committing to the solutions and actually working together on that in a more directed way. And so to my last, well, one of my last questions, I should say, because partly you've addressed the issue of challenges, and maybe the way of spinning this is maybe if you'd like to speak to a challenge or speak to something that you think we need to particularly focus on in the between now and the next conference in 2 years, what would that be for GBiOS?
I might start maybe just on top of my head. I think what would I also like to see, even though I'm aware that GeoBon is particularly nature science network, I think it would be very valuable to bring on also social scientists to the network, because I will be honest with you, I still think that when, as natural scientists, when we are drafting the project proposals and we are saying that we will engage this and that group, I think we are presuming that that will go very easy and that we are not really aware of the actual situation on ground, partly because we don't receive like a formal education in social science. But that also we haven't been in the field that much in these parts of the world. So that would be one of my visions for it. I think that I don't know how feasible it is, but also a bit of communication or collaboration or networking with the policy makers as well, because it would be on the spot. So you kind of early engaging them as well. And the third thing, I had a third thing. If I remember, I will come back.
Yeah, challenges. Does that work? Yeah. Challenges and opportunities. So for me, the challenges are mostly of technical nature or also conceptual nature, that we really have to work on those standard workflows, standard tools, and that needs on the one hand technical developments, but also conceptual thinking. But I think at the same time it's a great opportunity, because once we have that standardization, we can also make decisions with a much larger certainty, and that will be great.
I think the biggest challenge is engaging national governments and subnational governments and other entities. As GeoBon, we are still not very good at that. But if we accept that our strength is in knowledge and our strength is in being a voluntary community of practice, we can now explore a new avenue, and that needs to be, of course, a lot of funding. It needs to be people who are actually paid to do monitoring and all the processes, because you cannot actually have that type of a system without that. But while still keeping the volunteer network, because the value of that knowledge, volunteer knowledge, and its irreplaceability has been proven beyond question, I think, as GEO BON.
I think the biggest challenge for GBiOS will be to get it started. On the one hand, to get it started, you need sponsors and you need champions and so forth, but they don't really want to engage until you have something you can show them so that they can see that their time is going to be worth their investment of time and money. So we have a chicken and egg problem, I think. And there's a theory that says if you have a chicken and egg problem, assume a chicken. So I think what we need to do is to design that chicken, design that assumed chicken, and then move forward from that. And I think over the next 2 years for the next meeting, and I think at the World Biodiversity Forum in June, I hope we can really start to have a picture of a pretty good chicken.
Thanks, Gary. I can see the logo right now. I'm thinking chicken.
I'm not sure it makes a good logo, but...
Thank you. Well, I already mentioned some of the challenges, but for the opportunities, I agree with you, Gary. I think that maybe starting a pilot that we can adapt afterwards, that is flexible, that can be corrected with time, is an opportunity, and also maybe to build on the experience that we already have from other networks, such as GBIF or the International Barcode of Life, where we have national nodes and these international initiatives. I think that we can learn from them also what has worked and what has failed so far.
Great. One last question for our panel before we put you to work. And I'm going to seed that question and answer with you all with one last question to our panel, which is we in the Secretariat are very aware of our limits, and we're a small number of people, and we're not always sure that we're doing things optimally, and what can we do better for the community? So one idea from each of you, if you have one, about what could the Secretariat do in the context of this conversation?
One thing might be to already from the network that you have, and now new people that you met over this conference, maybe identify individuals or institutions back home which are already involved or currently involved in the implementation of GBF, and have them as your little helpers. Because what I really hope for GEO BON to be in the coming years is maybe trailblazer, at least for some parts of the GBF implementation. Because if GEO BON and also like fellow countries and people and institutions there that will help and engage, if we can actually showcase that assets that GEO BON network has is bringing to the table to the policymakers, to the countries to honor their obligations regarding GBF, and actually showing the dedication and implementation of the framework, I think might be also a variable thing that we are showing to the potential funders, the value of the network. So, of course, the Secretariat cannot do everything, so maybe one of the messages from today's session in this room was a collaboration, so finding these spots, individual people who are willing to do the job and to help along might be a good way. So, and also promoting a positive talk regarding the global biodiversity framework, because I'm afraid that if we would steer away from it, the countries might say, okay, you are constantly saying that this is not possible, there are no data, there are no infrastructure, nobody can do anything, we are losing everything, so why bother? And I hope that we will then lose a chance until for the next framework. So hopefully that we will be everybody on board.
Well, first of all, I have to say you're doing a great job. Thanks for all your efforts and for pushing this community. what would be great if there was money for the Secretariat to actually employ a professional fundraiser and to help us in getting funds for all the projects we want to do, because we are scientists. Like we know how to apply for an NSF grant or whatsoever for fundamental science, but for a lot of things that we are planning to do, these are we need different forms of funding, and we're not used to talking to companies or getting our vision across. So having somebody professional who knows how to approach those persons and help us with the fundraising, that would be awesome.
One thing that I'd like to see the Secretariat take on tomorrow is to create an online platform and mechanisms that allows every member of the GEO BON community and new members from across the world to contribute at an equal level of capacity, removing impediments, being able to contribute in their own language, being able to contribute in their own time, not having to get up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. for meetings, and contribute ideas, share ideas in a very dynamic way, because at the moment the website doesn't allow that. There is the technology to do that. I know it will cost money, but I think that'll transform the GEO BON community.
Well, my initial response was just keep doing what you're doing, because I think you're doing a fantastic job with the very limited resources you have. But since you asked, well, you want one suggestion from each of us, oh my God. So what I'll ask you maybe to consider is, are there partners that you can work with to make better use of the resources you already have, or to delegate to partners that might be willing to participate? And maybe GBiOS could be sort of a factor that you could, a lever that you could, or a stick that you could poke them with that they might be interested in supporting. But I think you guys have done a fantastic job trying to balance where you are going to spend your limited resources. And this meeting's a good example of that.
Well, I will just say that I see the time like also a limiting factor for like being able to participate in the discussions and the debate. So maybe if the Secretariat could help in some of the institutions that need that, you know, like to raise the awareness of what is happening, like to being able to prove the extent of this initiative, that could help a lot of researchers to be able to devote more of their time in accompanying, let's say, this kind of discussion. So that will be my suggestion, and otherwise, thank you very much for all your hard work on this and to putting all of us together.
What a rich set of feedback. I heard clarifying our focus and really committing to our commitment maybe to the GBF, thinking about who we bring onto the team to clarify our language beyond the ivory tower as we pivot to a more service-oriented, more engaged network. I heard broadening our capacity to engage across languages, across cultures. We have platforms for that. Let's do that. Be strategic with our partnerships. Maybe there's more we can do with others, and I think that's really fantastic. I think that we hear a lot that it's hard to be inclusive from the global north, and so we tried this experiment of distributing the Secretariat between the Humboldt and the Quebec Center for Biodiversity Science, and I think for the first 2 or 3 years it's shown promise, and I think there's much more of this distribution of the capacity of the Secretariat and thinking about how we can do more on that front. Yes?
Well, I thought of one other thing. Historically, can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Historically, GEO BON's been very focused on science, and it sort of got started from the science side, and there's been a gradual trajectory towards more and more of applications, and now we have indicators, we have the EBVs and so forth, decision making, and that's all very application oriented. So someone commented to me in the hallway that she was afraid it was going to be too much science, and it was still a little bit too much, but it seemed to be on that trajectory. So continue on that trajectory is what I was going to say.
On that note, afterwards. I want you all to thank our panelists, and we invite you to leave the stage. You are free to go. Now it's your turn to do some work, and we would like to engage you all in a Mentimeter exercise to poll the room and take the temperature of the room. And to chair that process, or to guide that process, I'm going to invite GEO BON's, the Secretariat's Science Officer, Katie Millette, to come to the stage. That's because she has worked to produce this Mentimeter. Thank you, Katie.
If we can get the Mentimeter poll up. So hi, everyone. You might have seen me running around the stairs the whole week. My name is Katie Millette, and as Andy said, I'm the Science Officer with GEO BON. So right now, we're really interested to get your feedback on your experience today, yesterday, for the whole conference, and also as a member or new member of GEO BON. So we're going to use a poll application called Mentimeter. So if you can just go to the laptop feed. And some of you might be familiar with this, some of you not. So you're going to need your cell phone in a second. Does anyone back there want to check what's going on? IT team back there, so we should figure it out. It's just on the laptop, Jean-Michel. Well, we want to be able to see the results, so. No, I don't have it on here. Yeah. Working? People at the back, is it working? Yes? Okay, so the first question we have for you is, in one word, please describe your experience at the conference. So this is going to generate a word cloud, and whatever you enter will come up on the screen, so be PG. Okay, so can we hit the next slide? Press C, it says. No. Okay. No, go back. Go back. Here we go. Okay. So, like I said, the size of the word will indicate the frequency of the word. So it's going to keep changing. A lot of people seem to think it's inspiring. Oh, wow, it won't settle. Interesting, broad, informative, engaging, stimulating. I see a lot of positive words. That's great. Top. I think our top word is inspiring, interesting, and informative. I think I agree. Well, it's still going. We got 200 responses. I think you can put in 2 votes, so. Exhausting. Oh boy. Yeah, that's pretty cool to capture the video of that. Oh, exhausting is staying up there. Okay, the number of responses are still going, so I think maybe we'll pause it around there. 261 responses. So, okay, inspiring still seems to be the big one. Exhausting has taken over, informative and timely. So I don't know how to deal with exhausting. That can be good or bad. Maybe we should make the conference shorter or give you a nap or something. Okay, so if we can go to the next question. Jean-Michel, can you just advance to the next question? So you might have to select to refresh your phone. But now this question is, would you come back to a GEO BON conference? Yes, no, maybe. Adriana is making faces, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm curious why maybe. Is it just your schedule? Does anyone want to say why maybe? If the in-person is too difficult? I can grab a mic. Jordan. Oh, there, okay.
Because I will have to find the budget to come again.
Budget, okay, that's a good answer. Yeah, that's totally understandable, and so, yeah. Okay, let's go to the next question. Jean-Michel, next question, please. What topics would you like to know more about? So this question is framed as a rank analysis. So there's 1 to 9 answers, and you just drag them to the top box, and then you can play with the arrows of where you want to put them, from the first thing you want to know the most about to the least thing, so the 9th thing. So this might take a few minutes or seconds for you. So the options are essential biodiversity variables, building bonds, biodiversity observation networks, monitoring tools and technologies, GBiOS, community-based monitoring, and now that's moving around. Bon is on there. Application and reaching to policy and society. So we have 9 options. Oh, wow, okay. So I wonder too, some of the things at the bottom you don't want to know more about, or you don't know enough about them that you need to know more about them. So it seems like the top answer is application and reaching to policy and society. So I think that was something that came out in the panel as well, that, you know, how do we get all of our knowledge and information to policy and across society? And especially if you want to achieve the GBF, we're going to need to be able to do this. So this is something that I think we as a community believe, and even the Secretariat, we need to help you guys do that, and we have to connect with people that can do this. And there's a few more answers coming in. Okay, I think we can stop there. Let's go to the next question for you. Jean-Michel, please. Okay, how would you like to get involved? So Eren had a response there. So this again is a rank question. So first, join a BON, establish a BON. Would you like to develop EBVs and data products, develop indicators, develop biodiversity models, or contribute to BON in a box? Interesting. A lot of more outputs related to biodiversity information. So indicators, developing models, and EBVs. Seems like everyone wants to develop indicators. That's great. Okay, shall we move on? So now, how would you like to stay connected? So this is something we heard a lot about, especially from new members. How can I get more involved in GEO BON? So your options are, we will be launching a forum-like discussion platform called Discourse. So you can, Veronica knows all about that. Would you like to stay more connected to social media, like LinkedIn or X, Twitter? Would you also prefer discussion groups, webinars, email in our newsletter, or contribute to the Secretariat work? You can help us. It's interesting you choose workshops as staying connected as a way of sharing your work or learning from others. Like you don't need to feel a constant connection like you would through a forum, or do you feel you get more out of workshops? Does anyone want to answer that or have any thoughts on that? Yep, Belma on the front, Andy, or is there a mic?
Yeah, it is. So I think people here probably, or as I did when I hit the button for the workshops, see workshops more as a capacity building opportunities and also networking, because it is the second best thing to in-person meetings and training. So I think this is the spot that people were hitting with this.
Okay, that's great information for us. It's nice to see, though, a platform like Discourse. I do think that's something the network really needs to just increase the chatter and the opportunity to have real, direct, real-time messages. Okay, last question, I think. Oh, that was the last question. All right. So thank you very much. That was wonderful. That information is really useful for us. And now I believe we'll move on to the part we're all excited about, which are the student awards. And this is on behalf of the Quebec Centre for Biodiversity Science, or QCBS. And I'd like to introduce Najet. She's very nervous, so welcoming her. So she's going to present.
Thank you, Katie. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. The GEO BON Global Conference has been a platform for us to exchange ideas, share knowledge, and foster a deeper understanding of the critical issues facing our planet's biodiversity. The presentations and posters we have seen throughout this conference have not only been informative, but have also reflected the passion and dedication of the next generation of biodiversity advocates. So the Quebec Center for Biodiversity Science has the pleasure of honoring the recipients of awards for the top 3 best posters and the top 3 presentations. Let us begin with the Best Poster Awards. These students have not only displayed scientific rigor, but also the ability to convey complex ideas in a visually engaging manner and describe their research with enthusiasm. And the winners are... Ah, le bouton. Le bouton. Voilà. Now let's move on to the Best Presentation Awards. These students have shown remarkable skill in capturing the audience's attention and delivering profound insight. Congratulations to our award recipients. The award recipients are kindly invited to collect their prizes at the registration desk after the closing ceremony. We sincerely thank our evaluators for their contributions. We also would like to thank all the students and postdocs who joined us at the conference. Your presence has enriched the discussions and contributed to the success of this event. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep pushing the boundaries of what we know. Merci. And now please come on the stage for a group photo. So, first photo, juste les posters, puis après les présentations. C'est qui les posters? Everybody? Everybody, je vois. On n'est pas tant que ça, donc on est 4. Ça marche. Merci. Who's the what? I have no idea. Ouais, ouais, I didn't realize it was wrong. Oh, yeah, what's up? Sorry. Oh, okay. Everyone's still here? I thought it's all there. I usually never have a chance. Well, Rebecca told me I had to. What? Can I do a funny one? We're not funny. Yeah, wrong conference. Congratulations. Merci.
We made it. It's Friday afternoon, huh? It seemed so far away on Tuesday morning. I hope you enjoyed this conference. And as far as I could see, you did enjoy. I'm very happy that we managed to convene all these different communities, which does not happen very often. We had remote sensing community, DNA community, the bioacoustics community, the modeling community, some of the policy people, some of the private sector. And I'm very happy because the initial description that I had for this conference, whenever people were asking me, was this will be a COP15 without negotiations. So everybody's invited in a room to discuss how can we move forward to implement the GBF.
Now, this conference wouldn't have been possible without help from a few sponsors, and I will take a few minutes to mention them. Some of you were fortunate enough to receive travel grants from the European Space Agency and the International Barcode of Life. Congratulations again. Some of you had GEO BON awards, which covered the registration fees, and we tried to help as many people as possible from the Global South. Now, moving into the events that happened this week, if you enjoyed the reception on Tuesday evening in the Old Port, well, you can also thank NASA because they were instrumental in having that reception. So thank you, NASA. For those of you that went to the student mixer, student and early career researcher mixer on, I think it was last night maybe, that was sponsored by QCBS, the Quebec Center for Biodiversity Science. Thank you, QCBS. Those of you that made it to the Insectarium, and I hope you made it and you didn't get lost through the subway, well, that event was sponsored by the Insectarium Espace pour la Vie, Ville de Montréal. So thank you. We were very happy to have Genome Canada and the provincial genomic centers that were very interested in sponsoring a close meeting to discuss a lot around eDNA standards, data platforms, and so on. And they also sponsored yesterday's coffee break with cannoli and tiramisu. So if you enjoyed some of those sweets, well, thank you, Genome Canada and the Provincial Genomic Centers of Canada. We did have support from Pensoft, and I am very happy to say that Pensoft also, well, one of their journals, Metabarcoding and Metagenomics. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Florian? Metabarcoding and Metagenomics journal will have a special issue based on the standardized eDNA session. So thank you, Pensoft and Florian and Metabarcoding and Metagenomics. Again, the molecular community stepped in and they helped us. So thank you, eDNA Tech and the International Barcode of Life again. Thank you to the bioacoustics community with Rainforest Connection. Then we have some local supporters, Tourisme Montréal, Montreal International, McGill University, where we are based. Thank you, Humboldt team. And last but not least, the event that we had yesterday and that was appreciated by most of you, the Half Earth Day, that offered a hot lunch and then an entire afternoon of panels and music and Wade Davis as a plenary speaker. Thank you, E.O. Wilson Biodiversity Foundation and MacArthur Foundation. So thank you so much to all these sponsors because they helped us organize this conference and they helped us offer you some interesting events. And now I will invite somebody from the CBD Secretariat. We have Erie Tamale, who is a Senior Program Management Officer, and he is also leading the unit on capacity building and knowledge management. So on behalf of the CBD, please offer your remarks.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm sure you're very tired. I saw one of the words that made it on the top one that was exhausting, so I suspect you are exhausted. I'm happy to be here on behalf of the Acting Executive Secretary of the CBD, Dr. David Cooper, who is unfortunately could not be here. He's right now in Nairobi. As some of you know, we are having our 25th Substar meeting, which will be starting soon. but he sends his greetings. And on behalf of the entire Secretariat, we are happy to be associated with this conference, to have been one of the co-organizers. We would like to congratulate the GEO BON Secretariat and all the participating partners for the success of this conference. I think we should clap for them. They've done a wonderful job. Yeah. For us at the CBD Secretariat, we are really very happy with such gatherings and exchange of ideas and discussing future plans on how we can support the Global Biodiversity Framework that was adopted last December right here in Montreal. And I think as some of you must have heard, this is for us a major milestone, a turning point in the efforts to conserve global biodiversity. And meetings like these are very important in helping us to determine how we are going to implement this framework. The adoption was one thing, implementing it is another thing, and monitoring and ensuring that we are on the right track, and by 2030 to be able to look back and say we've achieved the targets we set for ourselves. And of course, this is not easy. We need all hands on deck. And many of you are already, I'm sure, contributing to this in your respective jurisdictions. And I think I just want to make one appeal and one call to action. Please support your national processes wherever you are working. Right now, many countries are in the process of developing or revising their national biodiversity strategies and action plans and trying to define their national monitoring systems. It's not easy. I was in the Philippines about a few weeks ago, and one of the top challenges that many country delegates raised was the issue of lack of monitoring systems, sound monitoring systems. They simply don't, many countries don't have. Some are lucky, and we've had a Humboldt, and we have Sambi, we had the Conabio, which are very strong. But our hope is that we will have many of these Sambis, the Humboldts and the Conabios, and in every country. We should have such strong institutions that can be able to monitor and report on the progress with regard to implementation of the Global Biodiversity Framework. And this morning, I attended one of the workshops downstairs, and we analyzed some of where we are at in terms of the initiatives that are contributing data, information, and knowledge, but also technologies and innovations that will help us to achieve the targets that we set ourselves. However, we also noted that there are some major challenges that we need to work on as a community. We need to coordinate our acts. We need to work together and collaborate. And we need to bring what we have already into the hands of the decision makers. It doesn't make sense to have very nice databases, global databases, and if that information is not filtering down to those that need this information to make informed decisions, then that's not the best result we all work for. We invest heavy resources. We've been here 4 days discussing. It's all investment. At the end of the day, it's when what we work for gets into the hands of those that need it to make the right decision, to make the right choices, and to work towards ensuring that biodiversity is conserved and sustainably used. So my call to you is, let's work together. Let us support the national processes that are all underway, and let's get help to develop capacities wherever we are. Some of you, I think, are in the academic world, and you have students going through your hands. But you can also contribute to helping to organize training activities or training support activities for some of our government officials to help them. Some of them refresh what they did many years ago, but to be able to be on top of the game and be able to have the skills that can enable them to do their job better. So Thank you once again. We are happy once again with the GEO BON Secretariat. Thank you for involving us, and we look forward to working with you in the coming efforts. And this morning I mentioned that the next COP is going to be adopting a major decision on knowledge management. And we need your input. We need you to come out and support this effort. Over the years, when it came to means of implementation, focus has been so much on mobilizing money, mobilizing resources. But mobilizing data, information, and knowledge is equally important. As part of efforts to implement the GBF, we need all means of implementation to be able to achieve this. Thank you once again, and I wish you safe journeys. So, and I don't know whether it's in order for me to declare the conference open. Not yet. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, and because organizing a conference takes a lot of time for you and for us, and because we have been promoting the need to have more representation from the Global South, we are very happy to announce that the next conference, GEO BON Conference, will be in Colombia. So, los esperamos en Colombia with more tropical climate and vibrant. So thank you very much and see you there.
Okay, we're almost at the end, but there are some people we really do need to thank. So at this point, I'd like to invite upon the stage our volunteers, those that are left. Please come to the stage, plus the Secretariat and all the Secretariat team of GEO BON and of the QCBS. Please come up here and join me on the stage. So first, obviously, I've heard over and over again that everyone has been delighted with how the conference has gone, how it's been organized, how you felt about the smooth running of it. First, I want to draw out our volunteers in the yellow T-shirts. They were there often running around like headless chickens, trying to solve problems, making sure that we had everything in the right place. So can you take a step forward, and let's give them a round of applause. Yeah. Bravo. And that was obviously a round of applause for those that were not with us. Next to the QCBS Secretariat, take a step forward. The QCBS is actually one of the host organizations of GEO BON, nested within McGill. It's quite complicated, but they have worked so closely with the GEO BON Secretariat and made so much happen, including, obviously, the awardees of poster and presentations. So please join me in a round of applause for them. Okay, and to the GEO BON Secretariat team who have been working at this for the best part of a year. It's the kind of thing that keeps you awake at night. To Adriana, to Katie, Veronica, Jean-Michel, please take a step forward, take a bow. Bravo. And really, thank you so much for making this possible. So there's one last thanks I want to give, and I want Adriana to come up here. So this is a bittersweet moment, because some of you may know, but not everyone will know, that, well, we have had Adriana in the Secretariat since almost day one in Montreal, and she has worked tirelessly with this network, with all of you, on Zoom and in person, and has worked tirelessly to make this event happen, but she is leaving us. She is leaving us at the end of November. She's going on to another chapter, another exciting chapter in her career. She may or may not tell you about that when I ask her to say a few words, but what I do want to do is, on behalf of all of you and all of us here, present her with some flowers as a token of our gratitude and thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you all. Thank you to my colleagues from the GEO BON Secretariat. Thank you to my colleagues from QCBS. It was a very intense year. Thank you all for making it to Montreal. It's quite an emotional moment. We were a very small team behind this conference. And at some points, it felt unbearable. But I'm glad we made it. And I'm grateful for all the support that I had also from you, from GEO BON members, from our implementation committee, who are volunteers, as opposed to me, who gets a salary to work for GEO BON. All our IC members, including our two co-chairs, are volunteering their time for GEO BON. I don't know how we can change that in the future, because I could see all the requests coming from you to the GEO BON Secretariat, knowing that we are a handful of people. I think it is the perfect timing now, as we work towards the GBF implementation, to unite these communities. So Andy mentioned that I'm going to leave my position as Executive Secretary of GEO BON, but I'm not going that far away. I'm going to be the Executive Secretary of the International Barcode of Life Consortium. And one of my goals is to bring these two communities closer together, the genomics part and then the entire GEO BON community. Because we need to work together. You know, the time of just talking has passed. We need to work together if we want to achieve anything. So I hope that we can do that. I hope that we can, release some major funding for these mega science and monitoring projects, because we do need that. But I also want to mention the human aspect of all these efforts. We tend to forget that scientists are humans and they have a life, and we tend to put more and more work on them so that they don't have free evenings and free weekends, because that's why they are scientists. They are passionate about their work, so they are supposed to work tirelessly. So we need to find better ways. We need to bring more people, more voices into decision-making, or at least into this network that we have of scientific expertise. And we do need to expand and extend more into the Global South. I think we all agree on that. We need to find ways to include local communities and traditional knowledge keepers better into what we do. I think that's another outcome of this conference. Anyway, I think everybody just wants to leave and have a glass of wine somewhere, but thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your interest. Please keep sending emails to the GEO BON Secretariat. You might not get a reply immediately. Please resend your email, because their inboxes might be full, but we count on you, on all of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Just one last thing to do. I officially declare this conference closed. Thank you, everybody.